I want to introduce because us. When I look at more, how's the audio? Can you hear audio? Can you see the document coming up? Hey, can you see the whole screen? Hmm. Yeah, you said I'm here. Yes. Oh, hold on. YTC Gamer? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, it should be wide now. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm seeing it on YouTube as wide right now. Yes, very good. Right now, I'm on WhatsApp right now. I'm listening to the call you're talking to. Yeah. Yeah, that one on the right is like sometimes you even want to show a document or whatever, you'd be able to show the document there. And if I go into this here, let me see if I go there and I shrink the screen, that comes back up. If I do it like this will be fully the desktop that you're seeing right now. I'm looking at what you're seeing. I'm making a big screen on mine now so I can actually see everything. Yeah, so I can actually see everything now on the screen, and I see what you're saying with the small view of it. I understand what you're saying. Okay, let me see if I can correct that. Yeah, I can correct it right now. Mm-hmm. No, no, that's a graphic. Yeah, that's just a graphic. Let me see. Yeah, 15, so. Yeah, I could take it off. I was hiding it. I'm hiding it now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to usually is doing something like this to share a screen, you're going to see it shared that way, but you should be able to see it wide enough. But here's what I'm going to do. Here's this. Okay, this is very good. Share screen. Oh, I see. You see? Yeah, we need to see the video big enough.
Fuel cells are a clean source of energy, usually mentioned in terms of hydrogen power cars, but the renewable energy source can also be used to power homes. For a look at the world's largest fuel cell power plant, CCTV's Eugene Jung gives us this report from South Korea.
Just an hour's drive south of Seoul lies Gyeonggi Green Energy, the world's largest fuel cell power plant, producing 440 million kilowatt hours of electricity every year.
A 2.8 megawatt fuel cell takes up the space of around one basketball court each. And in this energy park, there's 21 of them, enough to generate electricity for 135,000 households, all in Hwasong City.
Fuel cells produce electricity through the reaction of hydrogen and oxygen. Nothing gets burned, which means only steam comes out of the chimneys, making the plant ideal for locations closer to densely populated cities. And unlike other renewable energy sources, they can run 24/7, 365 days a year, unaffected by the weather. POSCO Energy, South Korea's largest private energy producer, partially owns and operates the energy park. The company's invested significant resources into developing the technology. And later this year, it will become the first South Korean company to fully localize the manufacturing process of fuel cells, a project that is worth $86.3 million.
The global market size of the fuel cell is from $5 billion to $15 billion per year. I think maybe Korea is the only country who is intensively support fuel cell technology. Once fuel cell power plants and fuel cell technology gets more familiarized throughout this country, we foresee that this technology can be evaluated in a different level.
Experts agree that fuel cells can be an eco-friendly alternative.
지금까지는 우리가 천연가스에서 그 연료를 사용해서
So far, natural gas has been used as a fuel to generate electricity, but it's also possible to use biogas from waste to run fuel cell plants. So this is a great solution to solve two challenges, energy and environmental protection.
By the year 2035, South Korea hopes to produce 11% of its power using new and renewable energy sources. And experts hope fuel cells could play a pivotal role in meeting that target. For CCTV, Seoul.
Over the past 30 years, the government of Norway has been saving lots of money for its citizens. Norway manages the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, worth $1.1 trillion. This fund belongs to every Norwegian citizen. With over 5 million people living in Norway, this means every Norwegian citizen is worth $200,000 on paper. Despite owning so much wealth, the people of Norway aren't allowed to cash in on those savings. The government of Norway is adamant about preserving this money, and the reason for this goes back to when Norway's economy started to change in the 20th century. Norway's economy traditionally relied on fisheries, forestry, and hydropower. This changed in the 20th century after Norway claimed sovereignty over its continental shelf. On the 23rd of December 1969, Norway had struck oil. This discovery made the country very rich. When Norway struck oil, money from the oil sector got reinvested back to the oil industry. Over time, the Norwegian government wanted a sustainable way to manage oil revenues. The government realized they could not rely on oil revenue forever. By this time, the world was aware of the Dutch disease. Dutch disease was a phenomenon first described in the 1970s. Netherlands had discovered natural gas. The discovery of gas brought an economic boom to the nation's oil and gas industry. This resulted in an influx of foreign cash, which made the Dutch currency more expensive. A stronger currency impacted other parts of the country's economy. Exports, for example, became more expensive and less competitive globally. This forced the Netherlands to move manufacturing, and the economy became too specialized in natural resources. Heavy reliance on natural gas ultimately hurt the long-term health of the economy. Norway was experiencing the same problems as the Netherlands. Fluctuations in oil prices were affecting the Norwegian economy through the 1970s and the 1980s. The government of Norway wanted to find a way to preserve its oil wealth for future generations. They also wanted to manage oil revenues in a way that didn't harm the economy. The solution was to create a sovereign wealth fund and pour all the revenues from the oil industry into it. A fund would allow the government to collect oil revenues and save it for future generations. It also swapped volatile oil revenues and replaced it with a diversified portfolio of foreign assets. Norway's sovereign wealth fund was established by law in the 1990s, and the first sum was transferred in 1996. Since then, the fund has grown to $1.1 trillion, which is almost 3 times the GDP of Norway. The fund has shares in 9,000 international companies, and it has various bond and real estate investments as well. To preserve this wealth, by law, the government cannot dip into the fund, but it can collect the interest from the fund to finance public spending. Currently, that amount is 3%, which provides the Norwegian government billions of dollars in revenue. Through the fund, the government is able to fund many infrastructure and investment programs in Norway. The fund also allows the government to maintain Norway's generous social safety net. The people of Norway get paid parental leave, affordable childcare, free healthcare, and education. The net result of these investments is a high employment rate and a happy and productive society. Even though the people of Norway
BahamianEvolution.com. Welcome to the new Bahamas. This is a Bahamas where our people are being truthfully informed on everything that this territory has to offer. We are rising up and seeking truth. We have been exposed to the plethora of opportunities for wealth that this land can provide, and we are committed to the thorough investigation of such opportunities. We know that the Bahamas is the wealthiest nation on this earth, and it is time that Bahamians learn the power of this land gifted to us by God. In this video, we investigate the Bahamas' most valuable asset, sand. Some of us think of it as a complementary ingredient to the perfect beach day. Yet, those seemingly insignificant grains of sand surround our daily lives. Sand is the third most used resource in the world, third only to water and air.
We use it even more than oil. We use it to make food, wine, toothpaste, glass, computer chips, breast implant, plastics.
The most prominent use of sand is construction. Every house, skyscraper, and glass window Every bridge, airport, and sidewalk in our modern society depends on sand.
Cement is the lime and clay-based glue that sticks everything together. And concrete is the final result that you walk on, drive on, and live inside. Concrete is made of 10% cement, 15% water, and 75% sand. The concrete required to build a house takes on average about 200 tons of sand. A hospital uses about 3,000 tons, and a mile of highway requires 15,000 tons.
So you can imagine the huge role that sand plays in our quality of life. Collectively, we consume around 50 billion tons of sand annually.
The market for sand is huge, and the aggregate industry is booming. The sandmen have not been affected by the economic downturn, and they are predicting steady growth of the demand.
Business is doing very good. I think it is going to grow in the future, and the reason for it is people still traveling down the roads. They got to be replaced. Bridges have to be replaced. People still want to have nice houses, office buildings.
The demand for sand is great. So great that the world's supply of sand is quickly diminishing. All easily exploited, low-cost sources of this priceless commodity have already been depleted. And so, all remaining sand will be dredged from one source.
Sand is not something that's easily found like you might think it is. It used to be that you'd have a sand and gravel deposit, and you'd simply go and dig it up out of the ground, so you'd have sand to make your roads, bridges, and buildings out. But that type of material has all been taken away. It's gone. We've used it already.
From now on, most of the sand required to satisfy our bloated appetite will be found beneath the ocean. And the workhorse of the industry is a dredger, a giant tanker equipped with a suction arm that can pump huge quantities of sand to the surface.
And so if the new source of aragonite is going to be the ocean, what better place to mine it than the Bahamas? The government of the Bahamas has done studies, and they have determined that there is no economic opportunity for aragonite in the Bahamas. One of the reasons being that despite the fact that we have large amounts of aragonite in the Bahamas, that it is not renewable. But how could this be true? There's no place in the world that has more sand in their oceans than the Bahamas. And the Bahamas is known for the purest type of aragonite. However, the government have done their studies, and this is what they say.
Very careful about how we manage it. And we also have to be very careful about the policies that we put in place for the extraction and utilization of it. So we're not saying that it can't be utilized. We're saying that we have to make sure that the policies are in place such that, because there's very little wiggle room. So even though it's found throughout the Bahamas, even though there are large deposits of them, we still need to understand in terms of the total sand budget, what's happened with this, how it's being formed, where it's going. What we can see from the studies thus far is that the Bahamas can definitely earn more royalties, but it will not make everybody a billionaire.
What is most interesting about this interview is that the minister is speaking as if aragonite is not already being mined in the Bahamas, as if we don't already have years of experience in this field. The fact of the matter is, aragonite has been mined in the Bahamas since the 1960s. Yes, since the 1960s. And so the mining of aragonite is not a new phenomenon in the Bahamas. We know exactly where the aragonite is. We know exactly the economic impact of the aragonite. Nonetheless, 3 months later, this is what he had to say.
I think there's about a dozen sites throughout the Bahamas to determine the amount of aragonite throughout the Bahamas and to determine how fast the aragonite is precipitating, because aragonite is a form of calcium carbonate or a source of calcium carbonate that precipitates out of the ocean. So you have studies that, and what those studies determine is that the quantities are vast, but different locations throughout the Bahamas have different precipitation rates or different rates of formation. And those rates of formation vary between 150 years and 2,000 years.
Environment Minister Ramon Ferreira cautioning government from pursuing aragonite as an additional revenue stream for the country, as he said the process would not be able to mature during this lifetime. Through a lease with Sandy Key Development Company to mine aragonite off Ocean Key near Bimini, the government reaps a royalty of about $2 per metric ton. Some have long believed the country could make much more. During his budget debate contribution, Ferreira said the venture may not be as advantageous as one might think.
Because of the length of time it takes to make 1 grain of aragonite, the mining of aragonite is not sustainable in human lifetime. What does that mean? That means that I'm betting that nobody in this honorable chamber or within the sound of my voice is going to live to see 100 years. And I'm pretty sure that you won't live to see 2090, and I'm almost certain that you won't live to see 2000. The point I'm really making is that this is the vast resource. There's a lot we don't know. It took a long time to accumulate, and we need to approach it cautiously. Because we mined Ocean Key for 40 years, and it has not recovered. As a matter of fact, the substrate, the ground, the bottom, seabed, characterized by anything but aragonite in that area. And that tells you, based on the science that we know, carbon data that we did, that it's not recoverable in human lifetime. So we need to be very careful. That's the point I'm making, because once it's gone, it's gone.
And so after 3 months of study, the Ministry of Environment has come to the conclusion that we have lots of aragonite in the Bahamas, but the industry is not doable because aragonite is not renewable, because it takes up to 2,000 years for 1 grain of sand to be formed. Yes, that's what he said, up to 2,000 years for 1 grain of sand to be formed. He further went into the media and equivocally stated that the aragonite industry in the Bahamas is only worth $2.5 million. Yes, you heard correctly. He said that the entire aragonite industry in the Bahamas is only worth $2.5 million. This leaves well-thinking Bahamians to have to wonder, is there something that the government is trying to hide? Is there someone that the government is trying to hide it for? Because if the industry is only worth $2.5 million, then why have people been mining aragonite since the 1960s and heavily commercially for the last 40 years? Why has that been if there's no money in it? Mining aragonite is an expensive endeavor, so why would someone spend the kinds of money they do to dredge if it's only worth $2.5 million? And that caused our investigative team to start digging. And so we started dredging for the truth. And boy, did we find the truth. And so we became very curious about what the Minister of Environment might have been hiding. And so the first thing we wanted to do was to follow the money. And the first thing we had to find out was, who was it that was digging aragonite in the Bahamas all this time? And where was our aragonite going? It's a good question. When aragonite leaves the Bahamas, where does it go and what happens with it? So in our investigations, we found out that persons only paid about $2 a metric ton. A metric ton is about 2,204 pounds. So they paid about $2 for a metric ton of aragonite, of sand. And we wanted to know, where was this sand going? Was this going to fill up beaches in Florida? What were they doing with our sand? What we found will blow your mind. So our investigators took a little trip to the internet, and we found a curious little website, an interesting little company that actually sells aragonite. But they sell an aragonite of the special kind. It's not just any aragonite. This is what they call the high-grade aragonite. This is the good stuff. And not only are they selling it across America and the world, but they're also selling it right on the internet. It was so easy to find what's happening with our aragonite. I wonder why the government couldn't find this out. And so after combing through all of those government files and finding all of these companies, many companies in this aragonite business, some of them seem